did you go to school?
And here's your
Hey, what do you think of what's going on right now, mate?
These evil little invisible parasites.
Satan-worshipping Freemason moron.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
We're not run by factions.
Get the fuck out of camera!
There are much more powerful international forces in play.
Is this pink eye? Is this what pink eye is? I don't fucking know what's happening.
I had to actually Google it, neo-Nazi men.
Please go outside and look at the moon quickly.
It's been crazy, guys, but guess what? It's how it is, mate.
Mate, because I want to do you.
But I ain't spending any time on it.
Welcome to the Conditional Release Program, a podcast that delves into the netherworld of cults, crims, and con artists. I'm Jack the Insider, otherwise known as Peter Hoisted for tax purposes.
And I'm Joel Hill, and welcome to the show, the Conditional Release Program Special Victorian Election Edition.
Woohoo!
Cook has been saying for 2 years that people were coming for Dan to clap him in irons and send him off to the courts for some of that frontier justice they're craving for. But how'd that go for them, Jack?
Yeah, not well, Joel. Not well at all. It's been termed a Dan slide. The Herald Sun called it a Dan slam, and Liberal Senator Jane Hume called it really rude. Well, I guess you can't please everyone. And in an exclusive on the Conditional Release Program, we discover suitcases full of votes have arrived by FedEx from Pennsylvania. Forget what the lying mainstream media and the corrupt Victorian Electoral Commission, I should say, tells your listeners. Joe Biden has won Mulgrave.
Of course you have. The Cookers are in uproar today. They are shouting,
Electoral fraud. It was, as Cookers tweeted angrily last night, a dark day for Victoria and the nation, where a dictator, the worst dictator in Senator Ralph Babbitt's memory, which as far as I can tell runs about 25 seconds, Dictator Dan won a democratic election and will continue to rule the state with an iron fist. Oh no!
Can't we call the army in? Is there something we can do here?
Those khaki bastards are in on the Dan scam too, Joel.
The
it's
free
time to get out.
tampons.
Move north of the Murray, maybe Queensland. No,
Oof.
Labor's in power there too.
Yes.
Maybe New South Wales. Oh, but there's a fraudulent election coming there too next year. No,
We do.
no. We're going to have to move to Tasmania, Joel. Goddamn shitty Tasmania. With apologies to all our shitty Tasmanian friends.
Yes, we don't want to make enemies down there. They're very powerful. So, look, many people are not pleased. The elections are like that. You have winners and losers. But we have Cookers promising to leave Victoria because they're horrified at the thought of another 4 years of Dan Andrews. They haven't exactly articulated why that is. It's something about tyranny something about freedom. Honestly, I just hope they fuck off westward because we do not want them here. Go north. Do not pass go. Go west.
Yep,
do
keep
not
going.
come here.
Keep going.
Do not want that. Fuck me. There's always a shit-covered lining to a silver cloud, and the idea of a horde of cooked Melbourne dipshits moving to Western Sydney to pill Parramatta is just more than I can handle. Can we not do that, please?
They won't survive in Western Sydney.
Fucking bet.
Yeah, don't worry. Just like every whinging lefty in the States promised to move to Canada if George W. got a second term, they're all staying put. Nobody is moving interstate because Dan Andrews won, and if they do, it's more likely due to outstanding warrants and debts and free tampons in bathrooms.
Why are they all such criminals, and why do they never pay their bills? I don't know what it is about such a common theme. But either way, look, I'm here for it, Jack. Watching Cookers complain is better than adrenochrome. I'm telling you, their tears are
very nice.
Delicious. And in this episode, we plan to bottle them up and pass them into your willing ears. It's been a big victory for Labor, and that's lovely, but it's a big loss for Cookers, and that is a beautiful thing to behold.
And yes, it is very, very beautiful. And while you're feeling celebratory, how about you help keep this show running by joining the Patreon, listeners? For as little as $5 a month, you'll get bonus episodes and more. It helps keep us going. And while this is a labour of love, nice pun there, Joel, it's also labour.
It is.
So if you could throw us a few bucks, it would mean a lot.
I actually didn't intend for that, but I like it. I like that. So yes, listeners, please consider throwing us a large coffee a month, because if enough of you do that, I can actually work less and spend more time on the show. Instead of this being a sort of desperate side project that gets interfered with by work, I can make work interfere with the podcast. And in that situation, everyone wins, because there's so much more work we could do on this. But everyone wins except for the Victorian Liberals. They don't win anything.
And speaking of the Victorian Liberals, here's a very Victorian Conditional Release Program weekly news. Election edition.
So with continuing counting, let's look at the numbers. Labor has won 49 seats, which is a majority. They only needed 45. The Libs 15, Nats 8, and the Greens 4. Cooker parties 0, which is evidence, not that we needed any, of electoral fraud.
Okay, we'll get to that shortly, but let's make some projections on how the votes are going to fall. It would seem Labor will end up with 53, 54, maybe even 55 seats. And guess how many they had in the old Parliament, Joel?
55.
55.
Yeah.
So no change or very little from the 2018 landslide, where Matthew Guy ran one of the worst campaigns in Australian political history. So bad was he, the Libs decided to stump him up for another drubbing, and he delivered in spades.
Yes, he did. He did his
job.
job.
The Greens will have 6, maybe 7 seats due, and I say this more in anger than sadness, to Liberal preferences flowing their way. First time that's ever happened.
Yeah.
Northcote and Richmond are gone. In Albert Park, where the Labor candidate has won 37% of the vote, the Greens kitty 20%. But he's ahead of Labor, two-party preferred 56-44. Counting is at 70%, but that's preferential voting for you.
Yes, and it is like last night on the ABC coverage, there was a lot of talk about the fact that the Liberals were preferencing cookers and extremists before Labor because their whole thing was put Labor last. Now, it's a good, catchy catchphrase, but at the end of the day, while I do actually quite like the Greens as a party, the idea of the Liberals putting a party that is further away from their belief structure to make a pithy fucking political point is just, it just shows you.
It just shows you how desperate they were. Yes.
Most pathetic fucking political party in history. I mean, just draw the line. I mean, like, if you're going to support the Greens over Labor, then, like, you're not really the Liberal Party, are you? Like,
we'll get back to the
Christ.
many structural problems they've got, electoral problems, demographic problems that they have, Joel. We'll get back to that soon.
But at the same time, when it comes down to the Labor primary vote, it was down 6%. It may not seem like that because all the seats came through, but that's because they had a lot of fault tolerance in some seats where there was a lot of big margins. Yeah. The Libs, and this is the take-home message, they were down 2%. Down 2% on a historically low turnout last election. So we'll get to the decline in the Labor vote shortly because there's a bit of a reason for it and it's worth talking about. But for the Libs to go backwards after 2 successive terms in opposition is an almost unheard of level of failure.
I can't think of the last time it happened anywhere. I mean, third terms are very, very difficult to win at state and federal level. And for the Libs in opposition to go backwards in voting is, and I cannot stress this enough, an unmitigated disaster for the party.
Yeah, and no one really expected them to win. But, like, there was no way they could have gained 18 seats in Victoria. But there was a big media push at the very last second to discredit Dan, and that has not touched the sides.
Look, it was never going to be that 18 seats. And on Friday, I wrote a column predicting a net gain of between 2 and 4 seats for the Libs. Not the Nats, but 2 and 4 seats for the Libs. And that would have been bad enough. Yeah. But to go backwards is catastrophic.
Yeah.
They've basically wasted 4 years with political deadweights like Georgie Crozier and David Davis in the upper house, not to mention Matthew Guy himself, who went from the vegetables to the animals years ago. If these guys had a shred of integrity, they would resign and move on very soon.
Yeah, true.
And Joel will get to cookers in a moment, but there are federal and other state implications in this result. I know we often say, are there any federal implications? In terms of policy and in terms of general mood, no. But in demographics, yeah, it will all be denied, federal implications. And Peter Dutton won't even address the issue this week. But like the federal election in May, this one shows massive demographic shifts going on across Australia, in Victoria, in New South Wales, and in southeast Queensland. And the Liberal Party is either incapable or unwilling to do anything about it.
Yeah. It's both. It's incapable and unwilling. I mean, if you look at the way in which they've dealt with this, we were talking about like the put Labor last thing, how ill thought out and bizarre. I mean, okay, I get it. Voting is difficult because your voter base are morons. But I mean, really, come on, like be smarter. But it's also that thing of like,
Well, it's really hard. I'll explain
go?
Just how hard it's going to be for them to change things. And I don't think they're capable of it. Look, the first thing to consider is what we call the millennial vote. Now, on federal voting analysis in the election earlier this year and on early data in Victoria, showed just 1 in 5 millennials are voting Liberal. And that demographic is growing. It's a huge voting bloc now. Some millennials are in their mid-30s.
Yes, some are.
On the back of the envelope definition of those who reached adulthood in the early 21st century.
Mid to late. Because if you voted for the first time in 2007 federal election, you're like 33 or 34 now. I, had the joy of being around for Mark Latham, but like the Libs are getting 1 in 5 from a widening demographic that is basically dictating the results in elections. And if they think the Zoomers are going to come and save them, there's maybe a few that think Nick Fuentes and Milo Yiannopoulos are funny. But at the end of the day, we've got a demographic of, let's say, young professional women. That's even worse than Liberals. How do they even come close to selling to them?
It's basically almost 1 in 10.
Yeah, okay,
and the Libs cannot win elections, state or federal, on those numbers. This is a growing block. So that's 18 to 35 pretty much now. That's a huge block where you're getting just 1 in 5, 1 in 6 voters, right?
Yep.
And you just cannot win elections on those numbers. And they can't win that demographic, a demographic that veers progressive on social policy issues and climate because of their policies now and over the last 10 years. I mean, what does Peter Dutton do? Put his baseball cap on backwards and start talking net zero emissions as Liberal Party policy? Is anyone going to buy that?
No.
And this is the problem. And the next big shift is in what we call the professional set. In Victoria, they're living in seats like Carrum, Bayswater, Glen Waverley, and those last 2 seats were Labor gains yesterday.
Big surprise.
Glen Waverley.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's a rich kid suburb.
The professional set also veers progressive. They're high income and they're educated. They may not be high asset wealth, but they are high income people and they veer progressive. They may not swing to and take their votes to Labor, but they won't vote Liberal. I mean, overwhelmingly, they're not.
We saw this with the Tills. The Tills absolutely pissed it in these blue ribbon Liberal seats where basically people have cash but believe in climate change.
It's a perfect example. And they saw this happen. They saw this happen in the federal election and just chose to do nothing about it. Victoria.
Did nothing about it.
Maybe there was just this view that Victoria was a basket case anyway. I mean, New South Wales is the next cab off the rank. And if that fails too, and it's looking like strong teal sort of following, big green vote, those sorts of things, and if Labor get over the line, well, that basically takes the Libs out of any state or territory government in mainland Australia.
Yeah,
I mean,
which
it's
is about
catastrophic.
time, to be honest, but yeah.
And you can say it all turns around and all changes, but there's no guarantees of that.
Yeah.
Look,
and Teals keep seats, so,
The next nail in the coffin is with the shrinking primary vote for the major parties, and this is something that's affecting both of them. 30 years ago, 90% of voters voted Labor or Liberal. Now it's 70%. So this 20% has shifted off. Labor's lost primary votes come back to them in preferences in Green or other minor progressive parties. There's a real discipline to it now. Preference flows from the Greens at around 85-15, Labor's way.
Yeah,
you can put your house on it. But when the Liberal vote shrinks, preferences are not coming back. The raft of minor right-wing parties, cookers, religious zealots, UAP, FON, etc., they aren't flowing to the Libs. There's no focus to it. There's no focus to where these votes are going. And invariably many of these preferences exhaust and shift into the ether. I mean, it's just basically almost a vote wasted.
Yeah,
I can't give you the figures for this election because counting is still going on. But in 2018 in Victoria, Labor with a big primary vote at 43 won 57% two-party preferred, while
huge.
The Libs 35 translated to 42.
Yeah.
See the difference?
That's a big preference difference.
And this election, Labor primary vote is down, but it will pick up almost 20% two-party preferred, around about 16-17% two-party preferred. There was a swing on, as you mentioned before, Joel, but it mainly hit Labor in its safe seats. In the seat of Broadmeadows, where Labor's Frank Maguire, Eddie's brother, he was pushed out before the election, and Labor's primary vote was down 20%. And a lot of that came down to Maguire's personal following. But in St Albans and in Preston, to name just 2 big swings in Labor heartland, they were on the back of huge margins to Labor heartland seats in 2018. So the swing had no effect.
Yeah.
And we can talk about why that is. I mean, in the West and in the North, a lot of the people there were really deeply affected by pandemic lockdowns, lost jobs, those sorts of things, and lost income and those sorts of things. There's another way of looking at this is that you've got your laptop class and your must appear at work at 8 o'clock in the morning class.
And the factory's closed because there's a case of COVID.
Right, exactly right.
And you don't get paid this week.
And so, there was a bound to be a fair amount of disgruntlement. I would say that after 4 more years, a lot of those votes will come back.
Yeah.
A lot of those votes will come back. So, that's even more chilling for the Liberal Party.
Yeah, it is. And you see, the upper house, which could be a complete mix of kooks.
It doesn't look like it.
Doesn't look like it. The picture does look a little less certain because the counting takes longer because of blah, blah preferences. But Labor, the Greens, and other progressive parties will hold the majority. It's looking like a very reasonable upper house, which, of course, is a play on words because congratulations to friend of the podcast. If you're listening, we love you, Fiona Patton, on your re-election for the Reason Party.
Yes, well done, Fiona.
Reasonable representation in a very important part of the political process in Victoria.
Well done, Fiona.
No fucking freedom, no
angry
angry Victorians.
Very good political career now.
Yeah.
And finally, and because Joel's going to talk about cookers shortly, I saw a tweet from Harvey Yemeni last night. There he was at Melbourne Tennis Centre. I think that's where he was. And it was full or nearly full to a capacity, and that's 15,000 people.
Fucking hell.
Centre court at the tennis centre, and all paying their dough to listen to Jordan Peterson.
Jesus, why would you spend money listening to that fucking idiot?
Well, that's just it.
He's got YouTube videos everywhere. What, is the sound better at the tennis centre?
Well, it's a big venue, and he was able to fill it, but it's 15,000 people. Let's just remember that. 15,000 people listening to Jordan Peterson, paying, I don't know, $100, $200, maybe $1,000 if you're up the front.
Yeah, you get to meet him and get some
and
benzos
all that sort
from him.
of backstage access all area stuff. Yeah. And what had occurred to me, and this is not the first time I've thought of this, it's actually cult-like behaviour. And maybe it's got a bit to do with no political leadership within the Victorian Liberal Party, who should, but don't, offer some sort of philosophical and ideological leadership. But it's somehow more than that. I mean, these so-called conservatives, they're not, by the way, they're reactionaries. We've been through this on the podcast many times. But simply, they don't know what they believe in or why.
Yes.
And they need someone to fill the gaps for them. They need charlatans like Peterson to tell them what to think.
Yeah, they need something to, like, they oppose things, but they're not quite sure why.
What to believe.
If they're pressed on the point, they
what their
need to have
stance is
something.
on any given
some
thing.
substance from someone like that.
Yeah, and outside of those sort of telegram-type echo chambers and things like that, they really don't know how to express themselves.
No,
because
they're just
they really don't have
terrified
any
of
background
change.
in political science or anything.
No.
They really don't know how everything works
No.
and haven't bothered to learn.
No.
So let's just pony up with a couple of hundred smackers and listen to, let's ask the benzo junkie.
Yeah.
He'll tell us what to do.
Great.
I mean, seriously. I mean, this
tell
is
us
a
what we
guy
do.
who's created his own narrative around his profound addiction to benzos and then had the temerity. This is a former, a professor of psychology who said, I didn't know that benzos were addictive. What? What?
Idiot.
Isn't that one of his 12 rules? Don't tell lies.
Yeah.
Anyway, we could look at the same or similar sort of instance when Milo Yiannopoulos hit town a few years back. There was this same clamour. I remember one successful businessman telling me at this function I went to, I really like this guy, talking about Milo. I really like him. He's a fantastic speaker who sticks it up the left.
Great.
And that tells you all you really need to know. Milo Yiannopoulos is not a conservative.
No.
He's not even a reactionary. He's just anti-left.
He's an opportunist.
And at the time, Yiannopoulos couldn't get a gig anywhere in the world due to controversies various, including statements that he supported pedophilia. And he couldn't get a gig anywhere in the world except Australia.
Just like Lauren Southern, just like many other dipshits on the right. But, like, we're looking at a guy here, just so you can get a bit of a fill-in if you don't know what Yiannopoulos is up to now. He's renounced his homosexuality, claims to have been converted. He's taken up lots of God-bothering.
He's pushing gay conversion therapy.
And I believe he's now a staffer, paid or unpaid, I'm not sure, for Marjorie Taylor
unpaid.
Greene.
He's an intern.
He's an intern for Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's pathetic. And it's just that relevance deprivation syndrome. This is someone who got the spotlight for some time, who sold themselves out on a fundamental level to maintain some degree of involvement in this weird cult.
He also, one of his last hurrahs, Joel, was to run a donation drive for a college, what do you call it, sponsorship, not sponsorship, college.
Scholarship?
Thank you, for white males.
Oh, God.
Because, affirmative action had meant that they were being cast out
Pressed
in favour
and
of women and black people. And there was a certain, I couldn't tell you the exact number, but it was into the millions how much money they actually raised, and then it's all gone.
What a surprise.
Yeah.
What a fucking surprise.
Just another fraud, aren't you, Milo?
That's right. But of course, Australia will take any shit sandwich you throw at it and pay $90 to listen to them harp on about nothing, possibly completely stoned out of their minds in an auditorium somewhere.
It was like the Spinal Tap tour of Japan, Let's go there and milk these suckers for all they're worth because no one else wants it. The price of tickets for Milo or Peterson, Jesus, joining Scientology would be cheaper.
Yes, and probably more effective too.
Yeah, perhaps not as much fun.
No.
But and that tells us a great deal about the intellectual paucity or shortage deficit of people who identify as conservatives in this country. More importantly, the views expressed by these clowns are so far from the mainstream that when a group, a party like the Victorian Liberal Party or right-wing minor parties espouse them, the middle, where elections are won and lost, will walk away. I mean, they just turn away. It's not mainstream thinking. And more so, the middle is smart in Australia and they know when they're being grifted. They know when they're being turned out as marks by political conmen.
Yeah.
But the right, so-called conservative right doesn't. And make no mistake, these are existential threats to the Liberal Party in Australia. In my view, they are 2 federal elections from political oblivion, and I can't see how they can change course and speak to Australian voters in a way that Australians will want to listen to. That's the thing. They are getting murdered demographically. I mean, you can say the Libs in Victoria were an absolute basket case. They were in 2018. They failed to do anything about it. They've got all this sort of dead wood hanging around the place that people have, turned away from, including that clown in Caulfield, who might get re-elected, but it's just a complete waste of space. I don't think he's ever held a senior portfolio in government or in opposition. I mean, there's just dead wood. Just get out of the road. Yeah. Retire. Get out of the way, man.
Yeah.
But then then he'd have to suffer relevance deprivation syndrome, and I don't think he'd go. Yeah, so round over. Over to you, Joel. Just how bad is this electoral fraud?
Oh, it depends on who you ask, Jack. But the response from Cookers has been predictably dramatic.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, their reactions have taken on this sort of full spectrum approach, and it resembles the stages of grief. We've got a bit of denial in there in the form of electoral fraud, of course.
Yeah.
We've got lots of anger with some spectacular outbursts from the usual suspects at these pointless fucking protests that never seem to end. Bargaining isn't really their style, but an unexpected person has decided to come out with that kind of approach. Depression is all over the shop.
Yeah,
Acceptance,
there's a lot there.
I mean, look, the acceptance is an interesting one.
I think they're going to pass on that step.
They do tend to, but one thing they have established is that in certain parts of this ridiculous alternate reality, this was all meant to happen. It's all part of the plan, the QAnon-style plan, because the white hats are in control.
Yeah, and the grift has to keep going.
Well, yes, exactly. There's a few people who are going to be
chasing, the money.
Very
they can't say, "Oh God, we've been utterly defeated and vanquished."
No. So let's look at the denial phase. It's been given a catchy title, which is "He was selected, not elected."
Oh,
and I'm telling you, I'm actually feeling this one insofar as this is often true for these sort of sure thing candidates, these Labor or Liberal two-party leaders who are parachuted into safe seats, given passage into the premiership by a fucking spineless party room. But Dan Andrews' seat of Mulgrave is actually a marginal Labor seat. It was redistricted and blah, blah, blah. You can look it up on Wikipedia. But at the end of the day, traditionally speaking, this is not a walloping kind of safe seat. He's not parachuted into safe territory. He had to fucking earn this.
After 2018.
While he was pre-selected for the seat using the usual branch mechanisms, fair enough, that's its own conversation. Dan Andrews is well regarded in the state, but also in his own seat. It just is what it is.
In Mulgrave, Cook suggested that the fix was in when Dan Andrews was placed on top of the ballot.
That's right, because it's digitally drawn now instead of the
digitally drawn rather than
thing.
the,
I've seen the draw back in the day.
barrel.
And it is. I actually do prefer the balls in the barrel thing because you go into his room and you watch it happen. I can't remember which candidate it was for. I think it was maybe Benelong. I'm not sure. But we watched it happen and there was something kind of cool about it. Like it was a bit of an event, like we got a drink afterwards. But the digital thing is a bit of an anticlimax. I will give them that. But it's not rigged. It is not rigged. They have
rigged.
the source code on the fucking webpage.
That one of Dan's senior colleagues also enjoyed the same benefits going immediately to number one, which he was, but that's just the luck of the draw, boys.
It is.
Girls.
The code is
it's
on
just
the
way
page.
it goes.
But yeah, these people don't trust technology mostly because they don't understand it.
That's it.
But look, I think it's a fool's errand to take anything Cook say literally because there's always some sort of bullshit behind it. But I couldn't help but to expand on that one because selected, not elected is totally true in so many situations.
Yeah, but selected by who?
Well, that's
Dan?
the thing.
I've chosen myself to be premier.
Look, when it comes down to it, you get selected by your branch because you tell them all that if you don't, you'll take away the sandwiches. And then in the party room, you give them sandwiches. There's a lot of sandwiches involved. But either way, in this situation, Dan Andrews fucking earned this. So, well done to him and well done for you guys for coming up with what is almost a good thing, but not. Selected, not elected.
Yeah. By
It's
Easter,
not.
he will be Labor's longest-serving premier in Victoria.
Not bad. And he gets a bronze statue, apparently, which they're fucking fuming about, despite the fact that I believe it was Jeff...
That's going to get some artwork, isn't it?
Yes, it is,
some
yeah.
amateur artwork on it. Yeah.
But that was a Liberal Party policy to have that. After a certain time, I think it was 3 terms, you get a bronze statue, and they're all whinging about it. Shut the fuck up, guys.
And look, seriously, the bronze statues, they are garbage. Have you seen the one
totally.
at Warney? It's like, who is that?
Dan Andrews is the funny-looking guy in the first place.
There's a lot to be said. Seriously, cookers or not, the quality of our sculpting in this country is subpar.
Well, I will say, as far as the Warney thing goes, that I was impressed a little bit by the bronze statues at the MCG, but not a lot.
There was also one made for Rabs Warren in his
oh my God, that could not be attractive.
Country town of birth, which I think is young, and everyone looked at it and going, Who is that?
Who? Yeah, exactly. So
anyway, so I don't think Dan's going to be too worried about bronze sculptures one way or the other.
His ears are going to look like shit.
Right now the most successful political leader in the country in terms of being in government and by any other metric you want to use in terms of two-party preferred vote, numbers of seats won,
Mark
numbers of
McGowan
seats
in Western
lost.
Australia is pretty close.
Who?
Mark McGowan.
Oh well, no, he hasn't been in anywhere near as long.
Yes, but I mean, he fucking drubbed it. He'll be there for a while.
Oh, look, that was a record-breaking drubbing, but the list starts with Dan Andrews in terms of longevity, and then Anastasia Palaszczuk, thank you, comes next. And then really it's there's not a lot to be worried about there. I mean, you think about New South Wales, they're all pretty newbies, South Australia.
Too many expensive wine bottles, not enough time.
Yeah, well, that can get you.
That can get you. So, look, the underlying logic as to why Dan must have lost is that apparently he's the most hated premier in the country and arguably the most hated man in Victoria. I mean, this isn't reflected in polls or general sentiment on the street, but on Telegram. This is where you will find this on Telegram. That's where this is happening.
Yeah, I know. But if you actually look at approval rating polling, which is junk polling, right? It's junk polling, even if it's handled really, really well. But he was 51-49 then.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's
so
ridiculous.
every journalist in the country started calling him a polarising figure or a divisive figure. The ABC was at it again last night. And I just don't buy it. I mean, I can't underestimate or I can't underscore just how difficult it is for governments anywhere in this country to win third terms.
Yeah.
It's almost unheard of. I think last time it happened was Bob Carr in New South Wales.
Yeah, and like when he called out Nazis, I'm sorry, and we'll come to this later, but like when he called out Nazis, that's because the Liberals were preferencing Nazis.
Yep.
That's not divisive. He's just pointing out reality. But, of course, every dickhead jumps on that as some sort of moment to, instead of separating yourself from Nazis and denouncing anti-Semitism in all its forms, you decide that actually the problem is calling it out. That's the real problem. We need to fix that right up.
Left, Joe. Nazis are from the left.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, fuck me. So, of course, the real denial phase, and this is a, sort of general big phase from our Cooker friends we all expected, is, of course, denying the validity of the results.
Electoral fraud.
We are going to get to some reasonable cookers like Topher Field who have begrudgingly accepted that more people voted for Labor than Liberal, and then went on to have a cry about,
There's
various
been a
things.
bit of that. There have been some tears, some tears of realism. From some.
Tears and sighing as well, which I've kind of enjoyed. But of course, your fringe elements outside of that paradigm are hard at work creating bizarre narratives to fit their agenda because that's what they do.
Yeah.
And we had one person on Telegram posting this genius piece of analysis. Fraud.
Electoral fraud, Joe?
Yes. That's what happened.
Fraud.
Exit polls widely diverge from the so-called result, given that the WEF is also involved in supervising the election, and we know what they stand for.
Yeah.
No, you don't. No, you fucking
you
don't.
actually
You don't.
actually don't,
You,
and
you do
actually
not.
weren't.
No. It's very clear what took place this evening.
Yeah.
Now they have committed the crime. Next step should be, if we're doing this correctly, arrests.
Oh, there's a little scale of justice.
There
I
is.
didn't know you could get a scale of justice emoticon there, Joe, but apparently you can.
It's the last thing you see before
Arrests.
the floor falls out beneath your feet. So the WEF wasn't involved in supervising the election.
No, they don't do a lot of that.
They don't
not in
really know what the
Victoria,
WEF
not really
is.
anywhere else.
Yeah, they just sort of made that up. But that's kind of what cookers do. That's why they're so funny. I mean, if they didn't, then we probably wouldn't have this podcast because I just find it so
we
fucking
wouldn't be
funny.
laughing as hard at them. Yeah.
Their imaginations are wonderful, though. Bless their hearts. Just stunted
Love
individuals. So on another Telegram group called, and I really, really like this, Ricardo Bosi and the Great Awakening, brackets, a tribute.
A tribute.
It's a tribute.
A tribute band.
This is not Ricardo Bosi. This is just a tribute. It's great. It's so good. I don't get it. It's fucking bizarre. She writes very similarly to it. It's great. It was argued that this is all part of the plan. As I said before, this is the white hats. So in order to expose the corruption, you must let corruption happen, which is that sort of Q brain stuff of like when bad things happen, it's all part of a plan. When good things happen, it's because you made it happen, because you're pulling the strings behind the scenes. The pose itself is a long string of waffle that I'm not going to go into because it takes fucking 5 minutes to spell it out. But in the general gist of it, the Victorian election is part of a greater global plan, and the freedom candidates involved were not there to win, but simply collect evidence against the evildoers.
Yeah.
And they are the white hats here. And just like Brazil's election was stolen, apparently, that's what she reckons, just like the midterms were rigged, well, no, duh, the Victorian election had to go this way to expose the worldwide corruption. So it's like Brazil, the United States of America, Victoria.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah.
It's all linked.
Yeah.
It's all linked. Yeah, look, I've had just about enough of your cynicism, Joel. I mean, if we have a look at this, I did see Brazil popping up as a as a stolen election, and of course Bolsonaro's having a crack there.
Whinge, yeah.
And in just a little bit of trivia news about Jair Bolsonaro, the former, with a big F, former president of Brazil. He's got a skin condition. I'm not making this up. I'm not doing an Eric Trump here. He's got a skin condition that is so bad that he can't wear pants. He can't wear trousers.
Jesus.
That's God.
not a
That
good
is
place
God
to be.
moving in mysterious ways, isn't it?
Isn't it just? So look, this is an actual quote from the Post.
This is from
ends in
the
this.
Ricardo Bozzi tribute band.
This is, yes.
Okay. Us awake is their greatest fear. Think election fraud. It's all in caps, so we got to yell it out. Think crimes against humanity. Think also in caps, global satanic death cults. There's actually no other way of spelling satanic death cults than all caps. And you just, whenever you get to write that somewhere, it has to be all in caps.
It has to be in all caps.
Think crimes against children. It's all coming out now. Is it really?
Is it?
And nothing can stop it.
No.
The wins that we are experiencing right now are far bigger and far more glorious than any state election win could ever be. And what it means to win this war for the world is bigger and more extraordinary than most people could imagine.
Yeah. You see that coping mechanism? That just complete divergent from reality. When something bad happens, you've just got to make a narrative.
It's going to be okay.
It's going to be fine.
It's probably better than the, spit the dummy, throw the toys out of the cot.
To an extent.
To an extent, but it is still very, very funny.
What happens when the white hats don't win and you start losing faith? And
what happens if you keep getting the shit kicked out?
Yeah, exactly.
How are we going to explain this?
So on the ABC coverage when I was watching last night, the results from Mulgrave didn't appear for some time, and I saw some people on Twitter complaining about that, saying, "Where's Mulgrave?" The journos on the desk were claiming the count was slow, so the results were coming in slowly as a result of the count being slow, and I thought to myself, oh, gee, I wonder why the count is slow.
Yeah, got some theories there, Joel?
I saw a Facebook post on Unvax Australia posted on Twitter by someone I can't remember the handle of. Guys, Ian Cook's scrutineers for Mulgrave's seat saw irregularities and the numbers were not adding up. There will be a full recount tomorrow.
Full recount.
Full
not
recount.
Not doing a quarter. We're going to do the
recount.
whole thing. Yeah, look, there's some other strange things that have come out there because I think Cook had sort of tricked himself into believing he was going to be a member of Parliament, and from there, who knows, he could be Premier, King of Australia.
Yeah.
And he really had just lost the plot. So he was extremely funny. The slow count, it was slow. There's no doubt about that. I tweeted because I checked the VEC figures on Mulgrave at about 9. What are we talking about? About 8:30, and I tweeted up early days, but it looks like Andrews won't need to go to preferences in Mulgrave. It was a marginal seat. Liberal Michael Piestrino I had 16% of the vote at that stage of the count. Dan's back to about 50.1, I think 50.96, I think.
That sounds rigged.
Of primary votes at the moment. So he might go to preferences, but the result is not in doubt. Yeah, it was a little slow, and maybe Joe. Maybe the fix was in.
This is just pure denial. We all know it. This is from a video that Celery Sorbet posted on Twitter of Ian Cook on election night on this weird fucking freedom stream.
Yeah,
it appears
weird.
Yeah, I haven't heard of this thing. It's something you guys checking out. Bless Celery for actually bothering. Some fucking Cooker scrutineers sent by Ian Cook who don't understand how voting works have reported back to him and made this absolute intellectual mess of things. And now he thinks there's a problem. Now he clearly said, I'm not going to death-o him here. He clearly said he wasn't talking about fraud.
He wasn't talking about
irregularities.
Electoral fraud.
Yes,
he
but
was
irregularities.
Saying, a strange count. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's pretty subtle. But
well, he was saying that that Dan's votes were being counted. That the counters were told to pull out the Labor votes and the Liberal votes and then count them, and then they'd get to the preferences after that, which is just not true. I mean, it's just not the way votes are counted.
Yeah, you count. Yeah, I've been a scrutineer before, and then you just knock off the tail end, and then you start preferencing out. Yeah, it's fucking silly.
That's right.
But that's the thing. I mean, these guys, they've just called out for these cookers to come and scrutineer in these seats because they want to cause shit.
Yep.
Now, I'm not sure if Monica Smith is clever or stupid. I do side with stupid, but calling out cookers to cause problems in voting rooms just seems one of those things. It's a little more evil than dumb. But either way, you had these groups calling out to the public, well, cooker public, saying, come be scrutineers in these important seats because you know what's going to happen. What kind of
really
reasonable and well-rounded people are going to turn up to these things? Who's going to take that offer up?
It's really easy to be a scrutineer. You just stand there and you can say whatever you like.
You do, and it's really funny. When I did it, I was doing it for an independent, and the Liberals were being really funny because every now and then there'd be a vote with a giant cock drawn on it. but it was still a valid vote, and it's optional preferencing in New
As long
South
as it's
Wales.
numbered properly, there's no
And
problem with
it
any
was like one of those
cartoon
things.
artwork on it.
All these things, like, they'd say, like, fuck you and stuff like that, but it was still a valid vote for my candidate, and the Liberals would come in and start making all this noise, and I'm like, mate.
Yeah, but that's the Liberal noise. It's always going to be a bit of feet. It's not. Cookers are just going to go in there and start, a blue, start a Donnybrook.
Oh, totally. I have no idea how that, because like when I was in there, I thought the Liberals were unreasonable, and okay, they were smashing it. They didn't even need to pull us up on votes. They were going to destroy us. But at the same time, I mean, like, they were just being nitpicky bastards. In this situation with cookers, you can only imagine what they'd be doing, shining UV lights on them to see if there's a reflection or some shit. Fucking, I'm looking for a watermark. Shut up, cooker. So another great quote from another Australian electoral analysis.
Oh, yeah.
The Aussie Cossack simply said this.
What the actual F asterisk Victoria? No, he put asterisk to avoid offending people because
he said fuck.
Yeah, he didn't want to say fuck because he's that kind of guy. He doesn't want to offend people.
He's a nice guy. He's a family guy.
Who voted for Dan Andrews? Election must be rigged. He's put a question mark there because he's a moron. And and then hard return, disaster. ...
I knew the question mark on election must be rigged would really piss you off, so I really wanted you to say that one. And this is the kind of substantive analysis you'd expect from the Cossack.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't like Dan Andrews.
He actually makes Thanos
like Dan Andrews.
look, passably intelligent.
Yeah. I mean, he really is a fucking meathead. But at the same time, I mean, well done him. He's managed to become a Russian operative without actually really being a Russian operative.
The Russians,
So
the Kremlin's not looking for quality.
Well, apparently not. But it's pretty embarrassing to see that kind of thing. Just basically saying, if I don't know anyone who voted for Dan Andrews, considering I'm someone from Sydney who doesn't live in Victoria, it must be rigged. Can't imagine who voted for him.
All my mates in the Golden Dawn didn't vote for him, and I'm pretty sure the Croatian Nazis didn't either.
Yeah, can't imagine who's left. Who's left in Victoria after that?
That's the spectrum.
It's most of the state, as far as he knows. What a fucking idiot.
Yeah, and look, I did see when we go back to Cook, he was saying some of his people were saying that Labor how to vote card hander-outerers, volunteer workers, people in their red T-shirts were walking up and down the queues of people waiting to vote in Mulgraves, offering them pineapples, offering them 50 sobs.
$50?
$50, mate.
I'll take 5.
Oh, come on, a marginal seat's got to be worth 50. And
5 is fine. Buy a sausage.
Oh, well, you're easily bribed.
Well, yeah, of course.
But they were offering pineapples, just a big fold. They were just walking around with billfolded 50s going, who wants some of this to vote for Dictator Dan?
Bags of cash.
Now,
and
the
then if you
VEC
don't vote,
actually
you get shot.
once this was reported, the VEC actually tweeted back.
Oh, no,
saying,
did they?
Would you like us to launch an investigation into this? Fucking crickets, just nothing. You could hear the tumbleweed, in the back of the room. Nothing happened there. No pineapples being handed out. I tell you what, if I was at a ballot at a polling booth and someone came in, I said, first I'd say 50's not enough. I'll need a couple of hundred.
What?
And then you just grab it, put it in your kick, and vote for whoever you wanted to in the first place.
Well, of course, exactly. I'd still take 50. I mean,
that's why the $50 bribe's not going to work.
Well, yeah. I mean, you really can't hold people to it. It is a secret ballot. You have little booths. That being said, there's probably
take a photo of your ballot and then send it back to the guy to prove it. Otherwise, he won't give you your 50.
That was a Cooker approach, though, when the last federal election.
Yeah,
one of the
to take a photo of your ballot,
saying take a photo and send it to me. So if there's less votes than photos, I'll know there was electoral fraud.
How did that pan out?
How'd that go? Well, I didn't hear much from him.
Well,
after
they received 4 photos and went, shit, we're only going to get 4 votes.
Fucking idiot.
This is terrible. What was I thinking?
So let's move into the anger phase.
I retract it all.
So basically, this has been fairly consistent throughout the last couple of years, but definitely getting very heated in the last month or so because, elections are like that. But it's
nasty.
coming from a hot place. And there are some very angry cookers running around the place right now, and I truly do hope, at the bottom of my heart, I hope none of them try anything stupid because the vibe is not good. But either way, that month-long harassment campaign of Dan Andrews outside his campaign office with Aidan McClinton and all those fucking creeps, and Daniel Jones, who's, I don't know, likes murdering stuff apparently, that appears to have come to an end, and that is definitely a good thing. But that certainly does not mean he can let his guard down. Because if Dan Andrews' security detail isn't military fucking grade it should be, he should be surrounded by sentry cannons and drones. Because, while most people in Victoria are clearly happy to see him serve, hello, electoral results, cookers are barely even hiding their plans to kill the Premier. And, let's face it, a lot of people have nothing left to lose. Who knows what's going to come from this kind of violent energy in the electorate? It's crazy.
And I would just say, when you talked about the month-long protest harassment campaign outside Dan Andrews' office in Mulgrave, Sauce's actually just sent us some film and on Twitter and into our DMs, Joel, and there's nothing going on there.
No, there's nothing going on. Yes,
They're
it is
all
empty.
packed up and going home.
Yeah, they have. Well, I mean, that's the thing. The election's over. So while the majority of people who are causing this kind of violent rhetoric in the air have packed up their tools and gone home, the people listening to this kind of stuff are still stewing in their juices behind keyboards, blaming everything that's gone wrong in their lives on fucking Dan Andrews. So an example of this, which was a fairly immediate response, but I think it's worth putting in the episode, at the Melbourne Vigil, which is this sort of perpetual and pointless camp out at the Treasury Gardens by a former protest organiser. I won't name you. The
Treasury Gardens are really nice. Stand out of there, you filthy scumbags.
Less nice with these.
Go home, have a
around.
shower if you've got homes.
Don't have homes, no.
Go and give yourselves a wash. You look filthy. You're a bunch of crooks. I mean, if you went through the lot of them, there'd all be welfare recipients with significant criminal histories.
Yeah, basically, yeah. I mean, one of them had these little megaphones stolen recently. If this is from footage that Sandy gave us, yeah.
Where am I going to get the $600 for a new one? They took the big one.
Do some work. Do some work for a living. Maybe, earn some money.
Doesn't look like there's anything physically wrong with you.
No. Go and stack some shelves. They're paying $40 an hour.
Businesses are employing, champion.
Yeah. Go do that. Anyway, so look, this little outburst was apparently, according to the video, and you'll hear it in a second, a sample of how the community is feeling. It's not, though. The community is actually voting for fucking Labour, you morons. But it should be noted also, this charming little tantrum was expressed over a chalk message that read, "Hey, Premier, you will be held accountable. Don't make us come back."
What are you going to make them come back?
What do you mean make it come back? What?
Dictator Dan will just issue an edict saying, "I want these people back."
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. You'll be forced under anti-lockdown provisions to.
That's right. That's the other thing.
Waste your life in this park.
This is a common response. When are the lockdowns going to start? But this is an even better one, Joel.
This is good.
Come here! Fuck you, Dan! Fuck you! You fucking cunt!
What do you want to tell the people?
Fuck you, cunts! Wake up! Sexton!
So yeah, as you can see, a lot of people are very frustrated, to say the least. It's people. The second, people are just literally 4 years, 4 more years of this shit. 4 more years, 4 more. Premier of the state for 12 years. For 12 years. I just don't even understand.
So yeah, 4 more years indeed. 4 more years of cookers whinging, bitching, moaning, and threatening the Premier with death. And why? It's because their brains are in a centrifuge of like confected anger. It's just created by grifters and liars trying to make a career out of making people angry. They don't even make that much money. I mean, these donation drives aren't even that good. We hear a lot of cookers screaming about how they can't handle another 4 more years, but as we said before, why?
Yeah.
What? What is the big deal? Are you that terrified of free tampons? Just chill the fuck out. Lockdowns are over.
I just can't bear the free kindergarten.
They get so upset about it. And why? It's just so fucking weird. And this is the thing, because lockdowns are over, but for everyone else,
That's it.
but not them.
There
They
are no
still feel
restrictions.
locked down. They've got this weird...
There are a few mandates, the vaccine mandates still in place, and they are perfectly understandable. Aged care, which comes from the feds, and I think healthcare workers.
He could just go and get a job at Woolies. They've dropped their vaccine mandate, but no. Now he can't get a new megaphone. How fucking sad.
And frankly, I don't want you coughing on my iceberg lettuce.
No, God forbid. And they're pretty cheap these days, actually. But they have this kind of weird version of PTSD. It's just not from the lockdown. It's from watching too many scary conspiracy videos during lockdown on fucking BitChute.
They're just addicted to it, yep.
They're just completely addicted to this ridiculous fictional universe they've fucking subscribed to. So... let's go to some threats on Telegram. This is just stuff that I did a very cursory glance search on and just got whatever first came up. One guy said this.
Dan Andrews will never be able to walk the streets again on his own. Oh,
yeah. I mean, that's probably true. Because cookers want to kill him. Because you motherfuckers are
no doubt it's
genuinely wanting to kill him for reasons you can't articulate. Not only because you're stupid, but because there might not even be a reason. Lockdown often didn't affect people. You can see people talking about lockdowns, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, a friend of mine had a business close.
Had a business.
Or a friend of mine
Lost
had
his
this." It's like,
business.
what about you? What was your impact? Oh yeah, I work from home. It's fine. I just watched a lot of BitChute videos and got convinced of an apocalyptic situation.
I made a fortune.
Morons.
I made a fortune on Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
that's
just
what a lot
morons.
of cookers will tell you. Oh man, I just made a fortune on Bitcoin. How's that Bitcoin going now for you, Jimmy?
Yeah,
how's that working out for you?
Pete Evans still loves it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
so the other one is hope
money to burn.
Dan gets fucking shot.
Yeah, I didn't want to read that one, Joel. I mean, I saw Dan last night with his wife, of course, and his 3 children. Can you imagine the sacrifices they've been through, the pressure they've been under, the guards that need to be established around them, young people in particular, trying to get out and enjoy their lives as young people should. But can you imagine the sorts of restraints they've been under?
Oh, it's fucked up. It completely is. And this is the kind of rhetoric that's been going on for ages. The Hang Dan Andrews, the Nuremberg 2.0 shit. It has been a staple food for cookers since the pandemic. And people like Ricardo Bosi have completely normalised this. And then you got the UAP who've platformed it and spent all this money trying to amplify it, to prop up this sort of fringe vote to maybe capture some of it. And they did. They elected a real estate agent to the Senate. We'll talk about him later. But my hope is that these people are too stupid to actually do anything. Of course, that is the reliance almost, that they're too unorganized and too useless and no access to guns. But you never really know. People do have guns. People do have volition. People do get to a point where they've got nothing left to lose, and only time will tell whether this will materialize into actual violence. But they love fucking talking about it. When it comes to Dan Andrews, vigilance will be key, but I mean, you can't be 100% vigilant. Hopefully, they're too stupid to do anything well. But the reality is that Dan Andrews wasn't seen much in his electorate campaigning and didn't even vote there. He said he was busy, but we know that's bullshit. That huddle of cookers outside his campaign screaming about dictatorship may have had something to do with it, and also the torrent of death threats that come every day into his office.
Yeah.
I mean, why would you hang out in your electorate? It's going to be really difficult for him to be able to do his job while people are going to be potentially sitting outside with a fucking sniper rifle waiting for him to walk through the doors. So they think this is funny, of course. And Scumbag of the Year, RV Yemeni, posted a video titled, Dan Andrews is scared to show his face. And then a message accompanying it said, watch coward Dan. I mean, he's scared to show his face because people like you are creating a political atmosphere that is genuinely unsafe for a premier to behave normally in public. You created this. This is your intention. And now you turn around and you mock him for being scared of having psychos
Well,
fucking
it's not that.
threatening
I mean, it's not that he's scared. I mean, his security details will be telling him, "You can't go there. You can't go there. You can't go there."
Yeah.
We can protect you to a point, but we can't protect you in open spaces, certain places.
Especially with your family, who you might not want to see die. I don't know. Like, I don't understand how fucked in the head you could be to think this is something to celebrate. But Avi Yemeni, I mean, he's a very special individual. I mean, just terrible.
Special is one word.
So we'll move on from that and we'll head into bargaining. And the bargaining phase has come from libertarian opportunist and part-time cooker Topher Field. I would argue that he's more of a libertarian than a cooker, but that's a whole other story. He's used this as an appeal to freedom as a concept. Bless his heart, because he accepts the results. He believes in the integrity of elections, and I respect that. But he's also said, in the following words, a few interesting things on his Facebook post that his flock of sheep might not want to hear. And this is like the first rule of Cooker Club. Tell them what they want to hear. You never see honesty from these people. This is why Maria Z is so successful.
Looking at this now. I don't know that Topher's crowdfunding is going to go all that well.
Oh, they're not going to like this.
He said, 2, echo chambers are real. I try to warn about them from time to time, but it's hard to convey just how small but all-encompassing an echo chamber can be. Making a good point. You can know 100 people who all agree with you. That's not a good thing, by the way, who all know 100 people who all agree with them. And as a result, you feel as though everyone agrees. But in reality, you can be in a bubble of only a few thousand people statewide. God, this guy's getting out there with the truth.
Yeah,
because of a huge percentage of shared friends and the ability to communicate over distance thanks to technology. So if you're sitting there feeling like everyone I know and everyone they know voted against Labor, then you may need to widen your circle of friends.
Yeah.
Topher. Wow.
I mean, well said, mate. Well said. So the rest of the post itself is about sticking to their guns as a community, this whole fight for freedom we long, you got to stick together, blah, blah, blah. Then you get back to basics, be less cooked. And of course, being a libertarian at heart, he would be into this sort of thing. I don't necessarily oppose libertarians. I think they're stupid and basic, and I'll never vote in their direction. But I don't think they're disinformation merchants that try and rely on vulnerabilities in people to exploit
it's a lazy
their fears
ideology that just says,
problems.
look, my interests matter more than yours.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all it is.
And if it comes down to it, I will shoot you for your flower and I won't feel bad about it. I mean, that's just a shit society.
Because I should be allowed to carry a loaded gun. I mean, it's just, yeah. Look, it's just lazy. It's actually intellectually lazy.
It's survival of the fittest, and it's always run by trust fund kids who have money for no good reason. It's almost always libertarians are like, yeah, but I'm rich. Like, why? I don't know. So, look, I just think that was good advice on a reasonable post. I totally respect it. I find it very difficult to say the libertarian's ever reasonable, but in that situation, he was. This will fall on deaf ears, because most people don't want to hear this. So then we move into depression. Depression is a serious phase of this. And in the comment section of this post, where Topher decided to tell these truth bombs what they needed to hear, let's face it, not what they wanted to hear, what they needed to hear, the troops just can't muster up the energy to keep going. And we have this.
Thank you for all you've done. I just don't think I can do another 4 years.
Good.
Ooh, do you think that they typed in live and then
and
backspaced and then went do? I'll just say do.
Yeah, dark.
Because, one of these people, the bell is tolling,
they
may not be there in 4 years.
It's pretty concerning. I think there's actually something that hopefully there's some outreach within the community in that, but I doubt there fucking is. What I can say is that it speaks to something I've thought for quite some time, which is there's been a lot of sort of final moments or big...
Federal election was another one, of course.
It was, exactly. And this was one of the final ones, from what I can see. The sort of backing of dark money and tacit support from the Liberal Party and the Australian Christian Lobby and these sort of organisations, and of course, occasionally Victorian media outlets like The Age and The Hun, the Cookers have behaved really badly for some time and still managed to maintain this certain level of funding and support. It's sort of inexplicable. Yeah. When you look at other states, the difference is stark. The opposition political party, generally speaking Liberals, did not support extremists, and it fucking shows. You can see in Queensland, Cookers, small minority of people, kind of noisy, not a big deal. In New South Wales, of course, we have a Labor opposition. There's basically nothing here. We have like the Aussie Cossack. And then you've got Western Australia. That is a place where they should be screaming. That whole thing was under the thumb of Mark McGowan and nothing. But Victoria shows this very different picture because, of course, these fucking morons, this lobster in charge, decided to back these dipshits. So now the election is over and their support for Cook has backfired. There's no way they're going to continue it. That support is going to evaporate.
Yeah, look, some people are all in on this and they have nowhere else to go. We've talked about them. They will keep doing their thing, camping out in Canberra parking lots, wrapping themselves in plastic, holding silly vigils in Treasury Gardens to absolutely nobody. But the fair weather freedom fighters who got a bit upset about lockdowns and enjoyed being part of a movement after this, that might not be the case anymore. But that brings us to acceptance.
It does.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one for them.
And there is some acceptance going on here. The acceptance is that the result is final. Whether it's legit or not is another story. And the only thing you can now do is move. Everyone's moving. One person on Telegram said this.
Here's one who's moving back to Ireland. We know that because he says, I'm moving back to Ireland. Not because of Dan Andrews, because I don't want my children growing up surrounded by brainwashed, emotionless zombies. Obviously, I'm not talking about you guys.
No, of course not. No. Because apparently Ireland is awake somehow. I genuinely don't know what's going on here. But this guy wants to move back to Ireland. So just something that was on Twitter a while ago, which is a ridiculous example of how far the right has gone. Zuby, this anti-vaxxer nobody who apparently made a record at some point and has a blue check on Twitter, massive anti-vaxxer, was saying that Saudi Arabia is the only place worth living now.
Yeah,
because it's the only place with good values.
Well, pick up some farming if you're a farmer.
I mean, fucking insane.
This fellow who's moving back to Ireland, maybe a visa issue? Just a thought. Just a thought.
I'm guessing that he's
Irish. I am guessing.
I'm guessing he's Irish, but I don't know. But basically when it comes down to this sort of weird idea of moving somewhere because their values are in line with yours, most of these sort of things, like moving back to Ireland, are they freedom loving in Ireland?
There's not going to be a lot of kindred spirits there.
It seems fucking stupid. But one time, Zuby decided that the only place to go where you know that you'll get freedom lovers, and you'll know they'll have good ideas and good ideology, Saudi fucking Arabia.
Yeah, well, there'll just be people just looking at your neck going, "Oh, yeah, now
that looks
neck.
soft."
You know, a good looking neck.
I could work with
my
that.
Scimitar.
Yeah, exactly.
We had execution of robots working in Saudi Arabia as part of a future, Joel.
We did. That was actually quite popular.
And I've thought about it a lot. I think that's dead set the way they need to go.
Oh, it's the only way forward. I mean,
I got spanked in the soccer last night too, so cop that.
Yes, I feel nothing for them. And when I finally get the Smart Cities episode out, I'll be sticking the boot in Saudi, as I promised for some time. So, look, outside of that, it's just a shitload of people claiming they're going to leave Victoria for more freedom. I don't know what they're going to find. We talked about this before. What version of freedom are they seeking? There's no freedom to be found. The last bastion of Liberal state government's about to get flipped. You can't go to New Zealand because you've got Jacinda Ardern there. And you can't go to Canada. They've got fucking Justin Trudeau.
Oh, my God.
They are stuck. There's nowhere they can go. Everything is either Labour or... just generally not freedom enough. I don't know what they even want anymore.
What about the US? But they can't go to the US.
No,
they're just not, but they're also not going to tick too many boxes on a green card.
No, they're really not. I think the criminal conviction thing might be an issue.
Just see here. And that's why Harvey didn't get in, of course.
Yes, it is.
Stopped at LAX. Excuse me, sir.
What he likes
excuse
to
me,
say.
sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, look, there's already memes about this. Victoria, the place to be, is now Victoria, the place to flee, which is kind of funny.
That's
I'm
funny.
sorry.
Yeah, I'll pay that.
It's a joke. I'll take it. But there's another one, which is just sad. Things to do in Victoria, number 1, leave.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's a sort of throng of about 95% of the population who go, could you please? Because that would really be helping us out here.
We don't like your presence, and Flinders Street Station hasn't been a fun place to hang out since you've been here.
Yeah.
Just go.
We just like to catch the train without getting monstered by idiots, politically violent idiots.
Yeah, can we have that, please? So Catherine Cumming is going to have to get a real job now.
Oh, it wasn't that a shame. Wasn't that a shame to see Catherine Cumming going down hard?
Catherine Cumming is a nonsense artist. And those sort of people in those sort of fields are exactly why
she was just
people
clout chasing.
fucking
She
hate
knew
it.
exactly what she was doing when she said those terrible things she said outside Flinders Street
Totally.
Station. Liberal member, newly elected member for Menzies, come out in the Parliament and denounced that.
Yes.
And
well,
he
that is good.
compared it to a gathering of Iranian protesters in Carlton, where there was no talk of political violence. They were merely protesting passionately the political violence in their own country.
Exactly, because violence is
country of
bad.
origin.
That's the starting point. So she jumped a whole Leave Victoria bandwagon, and
See you
honestly,
later,
good.
Kathy.
Go. Avi Yemeni, perpetual whinger, kicked off this tantrum spree by tweeting Victoria has fallen. It's meaningless. Very dramatic, meaningless. His sidekick, Real Ruction, decided to get his photography skills in, posted a very sad picture of himself walking down the street with the caption, "Now more than ever, we must pick ourselves up and rise to the occasion," which I'm guessing is the occasion of weddings, because he gets paid to be a wedding photographer.
Buddy, hey, champion, Ruction.
The
There's
occasion?
no money in what you're doing.
No.
Come find something else to do.
Movement's dying, mate. Move on. Avi's very talented at what he does, and Ezra's going to keep giving him cash because he knows how to piss people off, and he'll always get funds. You're a little bit half-rate. You're very good at lying,
You're a
but
snapper.
that's about it.
You're a snapper.
It's not great.
And you can be replaced by just another guy with a phone.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Actually, get Chris Coveries to do it. He's much better at it. So then he comes out with this cracker. And this is something that's been said a lot in the wake of this election, and it is, and this is the tweet, Stockholm Syndrome is real. Thanks, Avi. But, okay, we've talked about this before. It's in my sister's book.
Yeah.
Is it real, Jack?
It is
Let's
not
go.
real. It
Thank
is based on a hostage drama in Stockholm in the 1970s, where it is said that those who were held hostage formed sort of bonds and sort of emotional connections with their attackers, with the ones holding them at gunpoint. It is not true. It is a complete myth. Stockholm Syndrome simply does not exist.
Mm-hmm.
And it has just become a sort of a go-to phrase for when people can't understand one group or one individual associating with someone that they probably shouldn't. I mean, it's just mad. It does not exist. It is not a psychological phenomenon. It is made up. But Avi, he's not real bright, so you're not going to know that.
No, of course. And look, it fits with this thing. And I love the metaphor of Stockholm Syndrome, and I've been one to use it before. But at the same time, Stockholm Syndrome is real. I would never say that because it isn't real. I could use it as a metaphor so we've got to understand a concept, but just he hasn't read my sister's book, and that upsets me greatly because I've always thought that as a convicted domestic abuser, maybe he should have read Jess's book.
Well, he's probably not in the target market, Joe.
Well, look, he could learn some things from there in the male shame.
I know he could learn
chapter.
some things, but is he prepared to learn some things?
No, that's the issue with people who are afflicted by male shame issues. They are often very difficult to bring around the idea of convincing them male shame is the crux of their issue. Anyway, buy my sister's book. It's really good. So cookers have truly experienced...
You haven't even told us the title, Joel.
You'll all find it. See what you made me do. It's in all good bookstores.
See what you made me do. Cheese board across the bonds.
Yes,
so
exactly.
There should be a little ouch noise after that.
Yes.
Onomatopoeia there.
Oh, Arvy. It was actually a knife, but that's a whole other story. So, cookers have truly experienced the stages of grief, as we've just outlined in the wake of the Victorian state election. And, it's very sad, because they tried to make this whole thing all about them, and the worst part is, they succeeded. That was the biggest own goal in political history, trying to make this election about lockdowns and your whinging, and it turns out the entire state is like, it was reasonable and fuck you. So that's the thing. Like, unfortunately, nobody likes you. When you make this all about you, but no one likes you, just going to say democracy is great, but it's also a popularity contest. So making it about people that are inherently unlikable, I don't know. You might lose. Just a problem. So whether the cookers going to call it a day after this is yet to be seen. I think a lot of them are going to really turn in after this. A lot of people will hang in there. Some of them because they've burned all their bridges, no family
there are
left,
no alternatives.
nothing else, no alternative. As Thatcher would say, there is no alternative. I mean, you've just got to keep on trucking because what else are you going to do? But some of them were always just far-right bigots who have just bounced around political movements, finding meaning in cookerdom. I think that could be temporary. I feel like a lot of these fair weather anti-lockdown types are just going to go back to being just sort of pointless drips in RSLs, muttering homophobic sentiments to their friends. They're going to stop donating to these pointless lawsuits, stop donating to these ridiculous GoFundMes. They're going to stop watching Rumble videos and basically just picket libraries if there's a drag queen around.
Just get on with a bit of hardcore racism.
Yeah, like Reclaim Australia be like, oh, fucking recruitment's strong these days. Everyone hates Muslims again. Thank Christ for that.
I know. I was really starting to worry there.
Oh, my God. It seemed like they were all tolerating each other for a bit as long as they didn't like vaccines. So, look, this might be a general sense of wishful thinking that Cook is going to vanish. And not because they're going to start going further to the right and just becoming racist fucking nobodies, but just the fact that I would love to see the Cooker movement die. And I do worry they're going to start diverting their energies, especially to this culture war that's happening as we speak, that is just vilifying trans people based on all this nonsense about grooming and blah, blah, fucking blah. It drives me nuts. But Dan Andrews cannot, or at least should not, walk alone over the next 4 years because of the last two. And all this talk about hanging dictator Dan has led to an atmosphere of division and violence. That aspect, I don't think will go quietly into the night.
So in other words, the Cookers are handling another ugly defeat very well.
Of course.
As you were, Australia. Now,
Graceful as always.
We're going to wrap up the program today with one of my very favourite politicians. He's a maverick. And he's
one way of putting
tweeting. He was tweeting like a mad thing yesterday.
Yes, he was.
It's Zippy, Ralphie Babbitt. And Joel's here to tell us all about the kind of week he's had. Oh, and Pete too.
I'm a staunch patriot. I love our country. I love our freedoms. I love that in Australia you can be anything that you want to be. There is nothing and no one stopping you from achieving your hopes, your aspirations, and your dreams.
It has been a huge week in Pete Evans, but an even bigger one for Senator Stereosonic. But we'll get to him in a second.
God, I love him.
He's the best. But because it looks like Pete may be returning Twitter. Now, this is speculation at this point.
This is great news.
But this is basically just because Pete is a right-wing stereotype at this point. He's been simping hard for Elon Musk because that's what right-wing stereotypes do. Of course, since he bought Twitter, which is such an alpha move, blah, blah, fucking blah. And he's well aware of the impending Twitter amnesty for suspended accounts. Romana Digiulo got her fucking account back. That is how far this amnesty's gone.
That's fantastic.
So people are going to be checking their passwords and seeing what's happening over the next few days, and Pete Evans might be one of them. So there's another good reason to leave Twitter if you haven't already figured out like 100 of them. There is 101.
Have you noticed the changes in the blocking too? You can actually communicate. You can actually, if you've got someone who's blocked, you can actually tweet some of their stuff.
I've been having a great time because Avi Yemeni keeps coming up.
Yeah.
It means I have to go in an incognito window. It just comes up.
You can retweet with comment people you've blocked. It's wonderful.
Well, he's blocked me.
God bless you. God bless you, Elon.
I can see, the block function has really fallen apart. I hate
I gave it to this anti-vax clown this morning, actually. Good on you, Elon. Yeah. Doing good work, mate.
Bless your heart. So aside from that, the highly esteemed publication Daily Mail Australia has reported that Pete Evans has left his house. Breaking news. What a big deal. So while I generally wouldn't piss on that publication if it were on fire, they do absolutely love sticking the boot into old Pete. And the headline read this.
Rarely seen Pete Evans and wife Nicola Robinson walking their rat in Bondi 2 years after he was cancelled for sharing a neo-Nazi meme on Facebook. That was the pic caption. And they all looked craggy, including the rat. Well, it's a little dog, but it's
a little dog, yeah.
Ugh.
It is a strange choice.
It looked diseased. And Evans and Nicola Robinson just looked super craggy.
See, I was going to say that the Daily Mail sticks the boot in, but I must say, there is no better boot than yours. That was great. You even went after the dog. I'm impressed. Even I don't go to the dog. But look, I just thought it was really funny. They couldn't resist even putting in that long, unnecessarily long headline. They had to put the bit about cancel for sharing a neo-Nazi meme on Facebook. I just think that's great. So the article explained that Pete was in Bondi with his wife. Ooh, sporting a strange haircut. No one cares. And existing in public. But that's not the scoop. This was literally just an excuse to spend 500 words shitting on Pete Evans, going on about what a prick he is, including when he tried to suggest that Shane Warne and Rod Marsh, cricketers, died from an adverse reaction to a COVID vaccine.
Nice, Pete. Not nice.
Just yeah. But I do love the fact that Daily Mail just loves shitting on Pete Evans. I think it's really funny. But it has, of course, been a huge week for Senator Grindset, who has been at the grind, or at least has been posting on social media.
He's been busy.
He is. He's always busy. He is a fucking Sigma guy. So old Zip has been in a bit of a state around the Victorian election. He's a bit of hysteria, which unlike the federal election, which saw him get a seat in the Senate, there was no money. Uncle Clive left his wallet at home, on this occasion at least, and that was clearly reflected in the results where the UAP went nowhere.
Oh, no.
Still, Zippy Babbitt used his incredibly small platform to campaign for his team in the state election with this foreboding message on Twitter.
He is without doubt the worst premier. It's Dan, by the way, that we have ever had the displeasure of having to endure. The thought of another 4 years of this man is enough to make you sick. Not me sick, not him sick, other people sick.
Yeah.
60,000 Victorians fled our state last year. Not true. I think thousands more will be following if he wins another 4 years.
Okay. I like the fact that he used displeasure. I thought that was quite poetic.
Yeah.
But poor Ralphie. And this is the whole moving to Canada thing. I mean, like, it is grew the cook community so hard. In the face of free tampons, they have to flee. The idea of a
free kindergarten.
No! Oh no, we can't have this. Suburban rail. I hate suburbs. Mix the two together. I have to leave. I can't cope with this. Just sad. But I'll put you through another piece of fine wordplay by Babbitt because that's what we're doing in this segment. Take it away.
Yeah, this is more Babs. This is more like the Babs vocab we know. Premier Daniel Andrews has done such a bad job of running the state to the point that I believe he could make the devil blush. Today in the Senate, I thought I would let them know what I thought about the chairman and his leadership.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, make the devil blush. I mean, is he fucking Nancy Reagan?
It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. And he actually did do a speech on this in the Senate. It's like 5 minutes. It's fucking embarrassing. I mean, this guy, he's a fucking moron. He also said in this same speech that Labor had been working with Glenn Drury on Senate preference deals.
Well, that'd make the devil blush.
It would. Now, Drury and Andrews deny this. Both of them deny this straight up. But the thing is, Babbitt can shoot his mouth off because he has a residency in the Coward's Castle where, quite famously, but if you don't know, you can't be done for defamation if it's said in the chamber. It's protected speech. Mm-hmm. It's the only free speech in the country. And while this usually annoys me because it allows people to say fuckwitted things with no consequences whatsoever, I'm actually really glad that Babbitt has a place he feels safe saying dumb shit because it makes this segment fucking easier to write. Keep going, Senator. Keep going.
Keep going. Come on, mate.
Best part is your speeches are transcribed on Hansard, so I don't have to watch them. I can just read them. So Babbitt's also a bit upset about Dan Andrews referring to candidates as Nazis. Oh, instead of condemning Nazis. I mean, perish the thought of that. That's a bridge too far. Babbitt did as
uniforms.
Every other right-wing tool has done and just respond with indignant denial. Nazis? Us? No. It's just pathetic because, of course, Babbitt doubles down with absolute class by doing the first thing that morons think in a situation like this, which is, no, but I've got Jewish mates.
Jewish mates who are also gay.
Yes, exactly. And he hides behind a UAP candidate named Leon Kofmansky, who is apparently an Orthodox Jew. All power to him. But here's his fucking tweet.
Daniel Andrews calls his political opponents Nazis. This includes our, all caps, Jewish Orthodox candidate, Leon Kofmansky, who is running in the Southern Metropolitan Region. Is there any lows that the Premier will not go to?
Yeah, there's a few grammatical
Are there any lows, you fucking dumb prick? You're speaking in plurals. You fucking dummy. And write it out of time.
Yeah, you should have got the staffer to watch that one. So, look, I don't know. Like, how about the leader of your party, Craig Kelly, using actual Nazi Stuart von Moger as security at a freedom rally?
Yeah, there was that.
How about Rebecca Spellman? She's a bit of a suspect unit. I mean, I can't say she's a Nazi, but I can say she's a vicious racist, and she has Nazi mates. So,
is that too, Zip?
UAP candidate, federal seat of Aston in the 2022 election. That's not great. So, Also, back to old Craig Kelly, the guy who stood around and listened while Mick McMurtry went on an anti-Semitic rant on the back of a truck at a rally that apparently they didn't organise because that's their response. They shrugged it off and they claimed that it was not a UAP rally and they have no control over the speakers. Yeah. Thank you, Tom. I stole that from your article. So, yeah, sure. Cool. I didn't hear any strong condemnation of anti-Semitism in there, mate. I just didn't see it. But I guess that would alienate a large portion of your voting base, so you shouldn't upset your voters, right? Don't worry. You can say whatever you like now. You're not getting a second term. So when it comes to anti-Semitism, Zippy, your best move is to shut the fuck up. You are not standing on a platform there. You're not. And I don't think you really understand what it is anyway. What's a Jew?
He's the most ignored politician in the country.
He's so meaningless. We are the ones that give him the most attention, and that's because he's very funny. But this is the thing. He's just parroting lines from the 3 right-wing media outlets that he watches on a daily basis, sharing bullshit from Rebel News and Sky about how you people are such strong allies to the Jewish people because one of your candidates is an Orthodox Jew. Give me a fucking break. 4 people and a Nazi on a dinner table, mate, you've got yourself 5 Nazis there, and you can read into that how you like. But when your mates stop palling around with Nazis and vicious fucking racists who hate anyone but the white man, just to get these cheap fringe votes and maybe get up after $150 million with advertising, we can fucking talk then about your anti-Semitic cred. But until then, you're just simply a weird little guy who looks a lot like an uncircumcised penis. I don't know, is it just me that sees that? He looks like it.
I think it's just you, Joe.
It is probably just me, yeah. Not Hunter Biden's cock, though. That's
No. Let's hurry on. Move on.
So, this is only from the front, though. From the back, you look like a fucking baller, bro. Or so I'm guessing you think, because this week, Senator Babbitt took a break from impotent whinging about the Victorian election to get someone, who I assume is his brother, who is his shadow, to take a photo of him looking at Parliament House and posting it on Facebook. The photo's on like an angle for some reason, and possibly for another unrelated reason. Zippy is wearing a long-sleeve flannel with his sleeves rolled up and cut-off denim shorts.
He's Jethro.
It is just abstract to watch this. This photo is fucking art. Yes, Zippy pulled out his Sunday best Stereosonic outfit for Parliament, and I have no idea why. So I pulled this from Cam Wilson's Twitter and absolutely regret not looking into this on the day because he sadly deleted the original post on his Facebook. Which maybe he realised that people weren't like a fan of the whole here to party look from 2001. But it is a shame. It's a shame because it's an iconic picture, and this picture should be the one that is remembered forever when Zippy finally introduces a bill to Parliament to legalise pingers.
Yeah.
And I have not given up on this. I haven't started this campaign, but it's one that I plan to implement soon. I'm going to send him a letter where old Zippy, who definitely looks like a man who loves a good old red Mitsubishi, a risk taker, a love maker, and a pinger breaker, because you take half now and half later. It's hard to split, but sometimes you get the crumbs, you know?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. The red Mitzies are dangerous, but he knows to hydrate. He'll be fine. Until then, he is just our favourite idiot in Parliament. And sure, he's not as crazy as Malcolm Roberts. But Malcolm Roberts is sad crazy. He's not fun crazy.
He's not funny.
He's sad crazy. Cat is nuts. He's funny crazy. But like he's kind of old now. Like it's not like the joke is like
kind of
sort
lost
of done.
It too, yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of shit. So long may Babbitt reign as our beautiful idiot in Canberra. And while the Victorian election is over and he might need a new thing to whinge about, he can also just keep retweeting quotes from the posthumous Margaret Thatcher Twitter account. Although I think he may now have realised that she's dead, which is very upsetting.
Someone's obviously told him.
Someone's told him, yeah. But please don't stop, Zip. I mean, keep saying dumb shit, please. Zippy, because I'm fucking absolutely here for it. I love you.
Come on, Zip. Keep posting, mate.
Keep posting.
And you have been listening to the Conditional Release program with your host, Jack the Insider and Joel Hill.
Jack can be found on Twitter on @JackTheInsider and Joel on @CrunchMoses with AK. We set up a Facebook page you can find fairly easily. And if you enjoyed the episode, please share it on social media.
We have a Patreon to help keep this whole thing, this thing of ours, sustainable. It's bloody time consuming and we still have to pay rent. Help keep the lights on. Please.
For as little as $5 a month, you'll have access to all sorts of bonus content. We tell you about it all the time, including a weekly-ish episode, which is a bonus of all the good shit that didn't make it in the main program, because there's heaps of things we want to cover that we don't. So we try to make it worth your while.
And finally, all feedback, tips, and death threats should be sent to the Conditional Release program @gmail.com. We would love to hear from you, even if it's to tell us that you're moving out of Victoria because Dan Andrews is a dictator and something. Freedom! But please, for the love of God, can you skip New South Wales and just keep on going? Maybe the Territory, Queensland, you know.
Yeah, go to Cairns. Cairns is weird. That's good.
Good vibe. Good vibe for you up there.
I reckon it'd be good. It'd be sweet.
Hot.
Yes, it is.
Don't dress warm.
No. Thanks, guys.
See ya.
I don't think I ever want to talk to any of those people.
Fuck me,
are bastards.